Welcome to Bloomberg Law. I'm Pacchia. The American Bar Association, the organization responsible for law school accreditation, recently drew some scrutiny from the committee that advises the Secretary of Education. The ABA was found to be out of compliance with 17 regulations in total. In response, Senator Charles Grassley wrote the ABA with detailed questions. We are now joined by Senator Grassley. He's in Washington, D.C. Thank you for joining us, Senator.
Oh, I'm always glad to be with you. Anytime Bloomberg wants me, I'll try to be here.
So why did you decide to get involved in the ABA accreditation process?
Well, I probably would be involved even if I weren't a member of the Judiciary Committee, but I happen to be ranking member of the Judiciary Committee. Secondly, the extent to which taxpayer dollars might be at stake or wasted or not be properly spent is of great concern to me. But I'll give you the initial incentive to get involved in this. There's an oversight accrediting agency on the quality and instruction at our universities and our graduate and professional schools. And they put out a report raising quite a few points, maybe a dozen or so points,
right?
And questions about the ABA accreditation of law schools. Now that leads you then to, if there are some law school, and there's no accusation in my questions. We're trying to get information from the ABA, but it does raise these questions. It leads us then to proper accreditation, and then law schools giving about half of their students the opportunity to get merit scholarships.
Right, that was a big issue in the media recently. What would you like to see done about the student loan issue?
Well, I want to make sure that, first of all, people that are applying for law school, that those law schools are legitimately accredited and give the quality of education that they're supposed to give. When people are led to believe they're going to get merit scholarships, they ought to get them. And if they don't get them, then that worries me, because if they go get loans, and they probably will go get loans or have to get loans if they want to go to law school, and then if they don't get the quality of education they're supposed to get, and don't get a good jobs, they can't pay their loans, and then of course the taxpayers are on the hook for those loans.
Right. Tell me more about the student default rate. That was another big issue that jumped up in your letter. How does students not being able to pay their loans figure into the ABA accreditation issue? How does it all tie together?
Well, it all ties together because of these promises of merit scholarships, and then they can't deliver on that number, and people go out and borrow money, and then they can't pay the loan, they don't get a good job, can't pay the loan, and then the taxpayers are on the hook for it, because if it doesn't get paid back, it's made up by the taxpayer.
So what constitutes a satisfactory answer from the ABA? How would you like to see them in a perfect world respond to your letter?
Well, in a perfect world, I want them to say they're going to go back and review their accreditation and make sure that they satisfy the oversight body, the accrediting overview board on quality and instruction at universities, that they're going to satisfy that overview board, that their investigation and accreditation meets the demands of the oversight board.
All right. And not to trend pessimistic, but in the event that you get a response that doesn't meet your requirements, then what? What's the next step?
Well, then I think we need hearings on the ABA about whether they're doing their job right, or is the ABA the proper organization to accredit law schools?
Some people have pointed to this issue and said it's really a matter of supply and demand. There are simply too many lawyers coming into the system every year, and there just aren't as many jobs as there used to be. How does this get rectified?
Well,
does the U.S. simply have too many law schools?
I don't want to make that determination. I suppose I could say somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but with some certainty in my mind, we probably do have too many lawyers. But I'm not going to say who should get what kind of an education. Let the marketplace decide that. But one way or the other, if there aren't enough jobs, there's going to be less people going to law school.
Right. This puts the deans of these institutions in a terrible spot. There was a piece that made a lot of headlines earlier, well, it was last week, that said the economics of law schools have just gotten to a point that it's incredible. What advice do you have for the deans running these institutions? What should they be doing to make life better for their students and ultimately the broader economy?
Well, I think it wouldn't hurt to educate prospective students the chances of getting jobs. But I also would suggest to you that that is the student's responsibility. If they seek a profession, in any profession, not just law, but they ought to take job surveys to make sure that they can get paid. In other words, you know, I don't want somebody to get a master's degree or a law degree and then come and complain to me, as I've had some people do. You know, I've spent 5 years or so many number of years in a university, and it may be in archaeology, and I can't find a job. Well, you should have known that before you went to college.
All right, well, we'll have to see how it goes. Senator, while we have you here, any thoughts on whether we're going to see a deal on the debt ceiling anytime soon?
Well, there is an interim possibility now that has just come from initiative of the White House, that the White House is willing to consider a short-term extension, so there's no worry of default on August the 2nd if there's not a clear-cut deal, as long as leaders in the Congress and people that are involved in the negotiation can show that there's a path to a very comprehensive agreement down the road, just a few days or at least within a legitimate period of time. And I think that that's real helpful, because there is some indication that there can be a very good agreement from the Gang of Six. And I don't speak favorably about that if it increases taxes, but if it's dealing with things that doesn't increase taxes, then I think it's a very favorable move. And with things like that out there that are pretty comprehensive, it takes a couple weeks to write the legislative language and to get Congressional Budget Office scoring, then I think that that's a good thing.
All right, well, we'll have to see how it goes. We're certainly getting down to the wire. Senator, I want to thank you for your time today, sir.
Thank you.